friends, it's Jade from Sweet Softies. I am excited to share with you my positive birthing story. As many of you know who have been following my channel, I was due with a baby girl in the month of July. I'm currently 2 weeks postpartum and thought now would be a good time to finally share my story. I had a natural and unmedicated labor and delivery, and for those of you who are interested in going down that route or curious about it, I really hope that my story will inspire you to reach your goals. So here goes. First of all, my labor all happened within 8 hours on the same day. At around 4 in the morning on Sunday the 19th of July, I started feeling a strange cramping sensation in my lower abdomen, and there was sort of like this pain in my lower back as well. It was a soreness that felt very foreign to me, and I wasn't sure exactly what it was just yet. The first contraction kind of came and went, and I thought, that felt really interesting. So I began to look out more for that. Interestingly, they didn't go away. They came and went, and by the time I'd say around 6 in the morning, I knew that my contractions, I knew that they were indeed contractions and they were getting to be progressive. So I called my midwife to let her know that this was going on, and she told me to kind of monitor my contractions by timing them, and we would be coming into the birthing center once they get close enough and intense enough. So I started doing that, and my husband Jin was he naturally woke up at around I'd say 6 or 7 that morning, and we had a late night. But I wanted him to sleep as much as possible and naturally wake up because he was my birthing partner and the only one who would be supporting me during labor. So I needed him to be well rested for sure. We decided not to go with a doula because doulas were, first and foremost, very expensive, and we weren't able to find one within our, our range. And we also felt like with the whole COVID situation going on, we wanted to decrease our birth team as much as possible too. When Jin naturally woke up, I let him know that I was having some contractions, that they were bearable at the time. I was able to get through them with, my breathing techniques, and I was also massaging my lower back a little bit. So he started actually giving counter pressure, which is giving me a massage on my lower back too, and he used a cool little wooden massager tool, and that actually helped quite a bit in relieving the pressure in the back. So he made those initial kind of early labor sensations a lot more bearable. Now, in between though, he started frantically packing our birthing bags because I know a lot of mamas pack their birthing bags in advance, but we kind of procrastinated on that, and we were, I'd say, halfway packed. But since we were using a lot of the other items around the house, we didn't fully pack until the day of. So he kind of frantically packed everything, got some food and snacks ready so that we can have some energy during the birthing process. And by the time it was around 8 in the morning, I called my midwife back to let her know that my contractions were indeed getting pretty close. They were about 3.5 to 4 minutes apart, and she told us to meet her at the birthing center. So at 9 o'clock. So we started getting ready during that time, and we got to the birthing center pretty soon after 9. Pretty soon after we got to the birthing center, I was experiencing full-on active labor. My contractions were pretty close together, and I basically moved in different positions throughout labor. It really helped at first for me to get into the warm tub and feel that water, the heated water on my lower back. Jin was helping me through each of my contractions by pouring water onto my back, or like rubbing my lower back, squeezing my hands, supporting me through each one of those contractions. For some time after the tub, I also got onto the bed and labored on the bed for a while. I believe I was on my back and also on my side, and both of those positions helped, as long as I was kind of switching it up every once in a while. Staying in one position for too long tended to agitate my back. And again, Jen was really good about helping me apply that counter pressure and also helping me with my breaths. So one thing that I did that I thought was really great for pain relief was to count my breaths while I was in a contraction. And so I did really loud audible breaths. It was like shh, shh, shh. And I was pretty much like just blowing the air out of my mouth, and in my mind I was counting 1 breath, 2 breaths, 3 breaths, and usually went up to like, I'd say 10 to 12 is when I would start feeling that contraction slowly dissipate. That was really helpful. Jen would also coach me through the breaths by breathing loudly. Usually he's behind me rubbing my back, so he'd breathe really loudly, and that would help me remind myself to follow those counts. And he also helped with providing verbal affirmations, telling me things like, you're doing great, you're so strong, let's get through this one contraction, etc. And I can't tell you how much, those what seems like simple verbal prompts means a whole lot during that time. And it doesn't need to be anything fancy. In fact, I had a whole list written up of affirmations that I wanted him to use. Things like, you're working through a gentle birth, like breathe your baby out. Each contraction brings you, or each surge, I use hypnobirthing terms, each surge is bringing you closer to your baby. Things like, you're like, listen to your body, let that oxytocin flow through you, all of that. So that would have been a little much, so I'm glad he didn't actually follow that, and he just went with a more natural, in the moment verbal prompting. So I progressed through the active phase, and I actually did not know when I moved into the transition phase of labor, which is that part of labor when it's been taught to us at our birthing class that it's the part in labor where women feel strong, like, let's say, fear, sometimes anxiety, that feeling that, you want to give up, or you're gonna die, or you can't do it. But I never really realized I got to the transition point. It felt like I was in active labor, and then I went straight into pushing. So what was amazing is that our midwives recommended that I get on the birthing stool during the pushing phase. So what a birthing stool is, it allows the birthing mother to sit upright vertically, and that really helps gravity with pushing the baby out, as opposed to laying back on a bed and being at, a more horizontal angle. On the birthing stool, I was sitting upright, and Jen was behind me, again applying that counter pressure. He was squeezing and holding my hands, and at that point I realized, we were at the pushing phase, and it was just mind-blowing to me how quickly all of it had gone. Now, before birth, when I was mentally prepping myself, I kept telling myself that I would breathe my baby out gently, the hypnobirthing way, instead of forcefully pushing her out. So I really wanted to have a gentle, beautiful birth, and so I told, in my mind, I thought I was going to do that. But when the moment actually came, I had a tremendous, feeling to just bear down, and I simply pushed with everything that I had. And what was remarkable is that in our birthing class, we learned that pushing stage for first-time moms can usually happen between 30 minutes to sometimes even 2 hours, which is pretty difficult. But I think it lasted only several minutes for me because the baby came out in 3 to 4 pushes. I started screaming at that point. Prior to that, I was more like making these uncomfortable sounds. But I was literally just screaming because I could feel that tremendous pressure down there in my pelvic area. And the hard moments were probably when the baby was crowning and my contractions stopped, so I had to kind of pause my own body and breathe quickly in between while the baby was lodged in between me. And once the contractions started up again, I was once again screaming, bearing down, pushing with everything I had. Now the baby came out in, as I mentioned earlier, in 3 to 4 pushes. It was amazing to just feel her little body just come out of me. And the midwife caught her and immediately put her onto my chest. At that point, Jen and I were just crying. We couldn't believe it. We couldn't believe this happened. We had this bloody baby in my arms. And we were just looking at her oh my goodness, we did it. We finally can see you. We waited so long to meet you. And it was really, truly a remarkable feeling. So that initial euphoria just blew me off my feet. I was so shaken from that, with joy, of course. Right after she came out, we were given ample time from our midwives to just bond with the baby. So they helped me bring her into Jen's arms while I repositioned myself onto the bed. And I got to hold her again, and really just the two of us were in the bed just enjoying this precious time with our newborn baby. And it was so amazing. It really was. Just thinking about it makes me feel all emotional again, because that feeling was just sensational. So after a few minutes of speaking quietly and smiling at and just enjoying our baby, we noticed that she had some hunger cues. She started kind of opening her mouth, protruding her tongue, and shaking her head a little bit as if rooting for food. So the midwife taught me how to hold her in a good position to latch on for breastfeeding. And it was amazing to see that she was so calm and so alert and ready to breastfeed right away. So that was such a magical moment too, having her latch on well, and just seeing her mellow self against my body. So we loved that. After a good long while of just being able to enjoy some private time with baby, the midwives came. They had left the room and they came back a little later to kind of massage my stomach and help me birth the placenta, which actually wasn't as terrible of an experience as I thought it would be. They were pretty good about letting my body take the lead in going with the flow, and nothing was forceful or too harsh. So after birthing the placenta, which was a lot bigger than I thought it would be, it was massive, our baby spent a little more time with us, just privately, and then she got weighed and measured. So our little baby, her name is Lena Rose, weighed in at 6 pounds and 3.5 ounces, and she measured 20 inches, which I think is rather long for a baby, but or longer than we had expected. But it was so wonderful to see her do well in her newborn exam. Her APGAR scores looked really good, and she had her reflexes. everything kind of checked out, and we were just so happy that we were able to have this natural, unmedicated birth, and where she and I were able to work together, her body with my body, to help her be born and have her be an active participant in this birth, as opposed to being a passive participant, for lack of better terms. Anyhow, we were just so overjoyed, and we left the birthing center after about 3.5 hours to go home, get some rest, and since then we've been enjoying our 2 weeks with our newborn baby. We are really excited about this new chapter in parenthood, and I will actually be doing some vlogs later on with her, and I just have to catch her at a good time because the whole feeding and sleeping schedule has been a little tricky, but there will be upcoming vlogs with her, and I'll be excited to share those. Now that was that for my birthing story. Oh, I almost forgot. With all that hard pushing going on, I was actually surprised to learn that I experienced a 1st-degree tear. I thought I would be getting a 2nd-degree or 3rd-degree tear from that really intense pushing, but it was just a 1st-degree tear, and I didn't use any stitches at all, or I didn't need any stitches at all. And actually, now that I'm 2 weeks postpartum, I'm fortunate to be able to say that recovery has been going pretty well overall. I think a big part of that was just getting, not exercising, staying in bed, getting that bed rest, and, napping when baby naps as much as possible. And, getting help from my partner and my family, who is here in town too. So now, if you have any particular questions about postpartum, feel free to, or about my birthing experience, feel free to drop it in the comment section below, and I'm happy to answer them. I may do a postpartum video in my next vlog and answer those postpartum questions. And really quickly, I do have to say that, ladies, treat your bodies well after giving birth. I was able to mostly, I didn't go up and down the stairs very much, only a handful of times during these 2 weeks. And I think that helped a lot in my stomach shrinking down almost back to the original size. So it's important not to overexert yourself physically during this time. I know it's very difficult to avoid being exhausted. I was physically exhausted from lack of sleep, but it was a lot of emotional exhaustion too from, again, that lack of sleep and hormones. But just trying to really give yourself grace will help you with your recovery. Right? Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.